Welcome to the Foundation's Conversations at Home program. I'm Anne Cohen from Refinery 29. The Foundation has set up a COVID relief fund in order to support thousands of union performers who are going through tough times. Since March, thanks to your donations, the Foundation has given over $6.3 million in emergency aid to more than 6,900 performers and their families. If you are a SAG-AFTRA member and need help, please ask. And if you can help, please give. Information can be found in the description of this video. Thank you for your support. And now, without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce Emma Seligman, the writer and director of Shiva Baby, and the movie star Rachel Sennott. I guess we'll start like all the way back at the beginning, but originally the film was a short. So take me back then, Emma, and kind of like tell me a bit about how you came up with it and how you started developing it and then casting Rachel.
Totally. Yeah, so I made the short in my last year of college in film school, and I wanted to make something affordable and achievable, like ambitious in story, but not in, scope. I wanted it to be something I understood and could speak well to. And I felt like Jews, particularly like my kind of Jews, like, the community I came from, I could write really well. And I didn't want to challenge myself with like characters I didn't really know or understand. So I thought about that. And then I was like, well, what's the opposite of a Jewish family function? And I was like, a sex life, or like a sugar daddy or a sugar baby. And I think Shivas are also just so funny. And I think I talked about this with you. Like, they're just like, for me, at least in the reform community, it's like, someone just died, but everyone's still acting as if like it's just a family get together, like the vibes haven't really changed much. So I always just thought that was funny. So adding more contrast on top of it would be funny. So anyway, I came up with the idea. I workshopped it in class. And then I saw Rachel in other thesis films, like because she made a priority of being in student films instead of like doing her sonnets or rolling around on the ground or like whatever it is that they do in theater school. And then she also did her own sketches, which I thought were really funny, that she put up like on social media or whatever. So then I asked her to audition, and then she auditioned. And she was just so natural and funny and awkward. And I felt like I could run into her at a Shiva or like a family event. And I learned that she also came from like a really big family and also, struggled to sort of tell them what she was doing with her life. Yeah, and then and then we made the short in 4 years ago now, in the spring of 2017. And that was the beginning of the journey, correct?
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
Remember completely differently. No, I felt like, I think it happened naturally that we became really close after the film, but I do think that while we were shooting the short, we really clicked. And I love how Emma's so grounded and calm, and she's such a great director. Like, she really speaks to actors in a way that is, especially in school, is very difficult to come by, where she knows what to say, where you feel you're in the scene, you feel connected, and you get what she's saying to you. And then after we shot the short on the last night, we went on this like walk around little neighborhood, and we just kind of like said what we wanted to do. And I felt like we were very aligned in terms of like ambition and goals and creatively. And then, yeah,
it just sort of happened.
It just sort of happened from there. Yeah.
Well, then Rachel was like a Virgo and was like, so how are you going to achieve this feature? Like, what's the goal? What's the plan? What's the monthly plan? And I think it worked from there, where I would do drafts, or I would do an outline, and then I would show her like the outline, and she would give me her notes and her thoughts. And it was nice to have a friend and someone to be accountable to, who would like check in and be like, where are we at? Where are you at with XYZ? And it just sort of went, each stage from there. Yeah.
Rachel, what drew you to the character of Danielle?
I think Emma is an amazing writer, and she really wrote a nuanced female character who is messy. And I personally am like, I really connected to Danielle, where it's like, sometimes you make a decision, and even in the back of your mind, you're like, why am I doing this? And it doesn't matter. Like, I forget there was like, when I was 23, I'm 25, ages later, but when I felt like there was like a year of my life where there was like this little voice in my head that was like, do this, you want to do this. And like the rest of my mind would be like, don't do that. And then I would have like one glass of wine and I would be like, I'm doing it. And like, I think that Emma really captured that time in your life where it's like, even if you might not, even if you know what you're doing isn't the right move or you're not sure, like, I think she just wrote that in so well and in this sympathetic way where it's like, even if you're not always like, you're like, Danielle, don't do that, you still care about her. And I think that Emma really knows how to do that.
Yeah. One of the things I love about the movie is how well it captures that like really weird line as women where you're like, I need to do this to feel, I need to do this to like look empowered to other people. And then you do it and you're like, I don't know that I like that. It's like great.
You're like, that didn't work. I saw it working out different in my head.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're like, I thought I was going to be Carrie Bradshaw, but in fact, I feel like shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Was that something that you were kind of grappling with as you were writing the script?
Yeah, I think when I wrote the short, I just sort of like vomited out that and what we're talking about out of me. I didn't even think twice about it. I think in my head, I was like, it's just funny. It's just an awkward movie. And then later after we had finished the short, I was like, oh, I put in a lot of what I was feeling about myself into it. And then, so I think in writing the feature, I just sort of drew upon that time. Yeah. When I like we always talk about how like when Rachel was in the short, she like kind of related, but couldn't really relate fully to what Danielle was experiencing versus that was when I was in that point in my life writing it. And then when we were making the feature, or as I was developing the feature and sending her drafts, she started to go through that feeling. And I was sort of getting further away from that point. So we did this. So I felt like I kept on having to dig up stuff from within me from that time of like when I made those decisions and it was like, don't do that. Or, when you were like, I'm going to like, I don't care. I'm going to like see him and it's going to be like, whatever. And then you were like, no.
You wake up the next day, you're like,
you actually do care.
There goes 3 months of my life. I'll be sad now.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I kept going. I don't think I was feeling that as much when I was writing the feature, but I was trying to remember when I felt that way so palpably in college. Yeah.
Rachel, what changed for you in the time between the short and the feature that you started relating to that more?
Well, I went through, I'll say a series of relationships, but I feel like I had a really hard time where one, I felt very like it was so hard. I felt like I went through something where I really like loved someone and I felt like I couldn't get them to commit to me or love me, and they did, but they wouldn't. It was like they were withholding, and I felt like I would get rejected. I just felt very alone, and I wanted to have control, and so I felt like it was all about like who cared less in relationships, mm-hmm. And it was very sad. And I also connected with, I was graduating and like I had gone to school for acting and I had done plays when I was growing up and my parents were very supportive of my plays and theater. And then I started tweeting very openly about my like life and my sex life. And I think they were kind of like, what's going on? We thought you wanted to like be on Broadway. And I was like, I'm doing my career. It's different than you would expect. Mm-hmm. So I think I felt all of those feelings that Danielle feels. And I think I was going through the same journey she goes through in the movie over the course of like a couple of years.
You're a stand-up comedian and obviously like your Twitter presence is huge. How much of that is like how much of that is persona versus like an extension of yourself?
I would say that's a really good question. I would say that's a good question. I would say you didn't ask this at all, but my Instagram is more of a persona than my Twitter. I feel like my Twitter, I would say that as time has gone on, it's almost gotten a little bit, I put a little bit more distance between it. But my Twitter, like the whole persona or whatever began when I was tweeting things as they were happening to me. Like I remember there was this time that I was like crying it was like I was having sex with this guy and I was like, please, like, be with me. And he was like, no. And I just started crying and I was like, it's fine, whatever. And then like in the back of my mind, I was like, I need to tweet this. Like, I have to tweet this. And I did it like right after. And it was because I felt so out of control in every aspect that I was like, if I can write a joke about it, then it's less sad because I'm the one, I'm like, fine, I don't care. Like, tell me you fucking hate me because I'm going to tweet a joke about it and the girls are going to love it. And so I think that that is how I found control. And especially in the beginning, they were flying off the handle as it was happening. I was on the date tweeting the tweet. Now there's a little bit more distance because one, I think I've reached a better place in terms of like, I feel more in control of my life and I don't have to like, I love writing jokes and I love sharing parts about my life, but it feels less like that was the only thing that I had to hold on to and my friends, but that was it. So yeah.
Tell me about the casting process, because obviously this is like a super, super Jewish film. The vibe is very Jewish, but also, you know, you have a lot of the time, like surprisingly, these Jewish projects where like a lot of the actors are not Jewish, but you can tell. And like, how did you kind of balance, you know, your desire of like wanting to have the best actors for the job, but also like kind of keep the vibe that you were going for?
Definitely. I think that I can only assume that it's always a balance of like who's best for the role, who's well known, who's going to attract people, who is, for this, it was like who is local because we couldn't afford to put anyone up. So who's New York based, who loves indies.
Yeah, like down to do a movie
for no
$9.
money, for $9. So there's always so many factors, and especially when it's an indie, I think there's so many. I personally think authenticity is great. Like the more authenticity, the better. I think you can tell when you watch something where there was no intent at all for a Jewish cast or an authentically whatever it is, like for me and for you probably, like just knowing from the Jewish perspective, like where it feels like you're like, you literally didn't even try. So I think because I knew Rachel was 100% going to be in the movie, and because she, you know, like was a Virgo, doing the goals, doing the like, how are we going to get this made? What's the budget? What are we doing? How are we going to finance it? And because Rachel's not Jewish, I was like, okay, it's really important for me then that as many other actors as possible are Jewish so that it feels authentic. And I knew Rachel could come into it with her experience from her family and her dynamics with her huge Italian family and like, you know, their questions and their issues with food and blah, blah, blah. But I was like, it felt important to me to try to make everyone else Jewish if they could be. And even with Diana, who's not playing a Jewish character, I was just like, the more Jews, the merrier. I was like, everyone, we just want a vibe. We just want a Jewish vibe on set. So yeah, and then I was holding out for a really long time for even the mom character to be Jewish. And we were striking out so much. And then eventually Polly sort of was like, I was born for this role. And I was like, okay, you are. But Polly's married to a Jewish person. So I think that there's sometimes like, it's not always like they're 100% Jewish, but it's like they come from the New York theater community. They like, there's just other parts of it that it can relate and give authenticity without it being like, you know, a stamp of your ethnicity or a stamp of, I shouldn't say ethnicity, of your religion or your background. I think that it's a lot more of a balance than people think. It's not black and white, but I think intent is really important. Like I think for me, at least I can tell when the casting director was like, nope, but who gives a shit, you know?
Yeah, there's Jewish and there's Jewish, and they're like all in the same bubble.
Yeah.
But also what's remarkable about this movie is that I feel like a lot of the times when we're talking about Jewish projects, it's like Jewish creators trying to explain Judaism to non-Jews. Whereas this film feels very like, you get it or you don't. It's like very much for the Jews.
We are the Jews. Yeah, there's no like watering down of the Jewishness. Well, thank you.
Like for me, I was like, oh, this is my family.
Totally.
This was your first feature, and obviously like you worked with some pretty seasoned actors, Fred Melamed, for example. Like, how did you kind of assert yourself as a director? And did you learn anything about, you know, directing different actors along the way?
Yeah, I had total imposter syndrome when we started, and I called our friend Annie, who directed her first film before me, a year before me, and she's my age, or a little older. And I was like, I can't do this. Like, I don't know why they're gonna listen to a child telling them what to do. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, this whole setup is so stupid. And I had a panic attack, and I was like, we need to cancel the movie. I didn't actually think that, but I was like, we gathered all this money, all these people are here, and now I'm not gonna be able to direct them. And I don't know, you just sort of have to like, you just have to like fake it. You just have to like be like, I am the director. And she talked me off the ledge and was like, everyone there is there to support you, and are looking for you to tell them what to do. That's your job. So even though you're young and it's your first one, you know, you just have to do it. And I think that I did slowly find that. And I feel lucky that we started really, at first our only scenes were with just Rachel and Molly. And that was like, I felt like we're the girls, like this felt less intimidating. And then we brought in Danny. And then after Danny, we brought in Polly. And then after Polly, we brought in Fred and then Diana. So I felt like it was just in the way we scheduled it, which wasn't even built around my anxiety, but it just so happened that it worked out a little more naturally. And what I did learn about working with actors, though, is that everyone is so different and everyone needs different things from you, and everyone needs you to communicate in a different way to them. I think Fred is a trained theater actor, and he sticks to each one of his ums and ahs to the book. And if someone doesn't say the line before him in the exact way it's written, his cue is off. I mean, he's not like difficult. He's not like, that wasn't my cue, but like, Molly, for instance, never says the same line twice. She just is like, whatever, I'm going to make it my own. And I don't think she realizes she's doing that, but she just always finds a way to like, just embellish it or just to give it a little more of her own thing. So that sometimes did this, but there was only like one scene they had together. And then Polly loves to is a huge improviser and loves to like talk about everything in her choices and being like, the mom, she likes pushing for things and being like, the mom knows this or the mom wants this from her and likes to talk about things. Rachel just sort of, it was so different because she knew the script backwards and forwards. So it felt like we could almost just telepathically communicate. So yeah, that was the biggest thing, was just learning that every actor wants something different from you. And I was sort of doing my film school thing where I was telling everyone like, you're feeling this way because of your childhood, and your childhood is reminding you of this. And Molly was just like so over that and was like, am I sad or am I mad or am I happy? Like, what am I? And I was like, you're both, and you're thinking about this time. And she was just like, so I had to learn how to like try things different ways. If I wanted something more nuanced, I had to say like, let's try it this way, let's try it that way, so that when you're in the edit, you can piece stuff together. And also just learn what beat changes were. Because I think sometimes Molly were like, am I sad or happy? So I had to be like, you're sad. And then up until this line, and then you're happy. So yeah, so it was just, it was definitely like a big learning experience.
How much improv was there in, the finished product? Like, did you really stick to the script, Rachel, or were you kind of riffing off it?
I would say we improv'd a lot in the scenes with me and Molly, where it would be like, just like, especially that first scene where we did it a bunch of different ways. And I feel like we cut together from the different ways, where there's like a second where it's kind of flirty and then it goes back to competitive, which was really fun. I improv the girl boss line. There wasn't like it wasn't like, it's not like, I wouldn't say it's an improv movie, but there were just like little pockets where Emma would say like, if you want to just like go off naturally, you know what I mean?
I think with Rachel and Molly, I was so worried that because their dynamic is so difficult to write, that I was like, you can ad lib, you can feel free to go ahead, but it's hard to schedule an improv sort of thing when it's such a sort of stylistic and closed environment. But I will say, Polly, I never said to the cast like, we're doing improv. Rachel would ad lib, that's what I feel like you would do. You would ad lib a little line here and there. Polly would fully improvise bits. And then I'd be like, what? You know what I mean? And sometimes they were gold and we kept them and I was so glad. But then sometimes I was like, this wasn't planned. Or I'd say cut. And then she'd be like, her and Deborah Offner, who were friends, would come to set and they'd be like, we prepared a whole thing. Can we do our thing before? And I was like, what? So it wasn't there. That was improv. You were ad-libbing.
I was ad-libbing. But it was all that I would say it sounded, the script had everything. You know what I mean? I feel like it was all the jokes were there. It was so well written that it was like you didn't have, sometimes I feel like just now thinking of like college experiences, people would like, there would be like 2 lines and they would be like, just say a bunch of random shit. Like it never felt like that. It was very like, we knew what we were doing. And it was like more like natural, like just throw it away, try this. Yeah. My God, I'm having flashbacks. Just like say whatever, like be crazy.
One of the things, speaking of you and Molly's interactions, there's something about the way, watching this in like quarantine, I'm like very aware of like people's positioning towards each other because like every breath is like a nightmare. But she touches you a lot in a way that's like very specific and reminiscent of like how you interact with, especially women interact with people that they've known for a long time. You feel this like weird ownership over them. So like you're like in their space. Yeah. How did you guys develop, that chemistry? Was it like, did you guys know each other before, or was it like really like hit the ground running once you got to that?
Molly and I think Molly just clicked with both of us. Yeah. And we're all really good friends now. And I think that she's just an open person, and we clicked, and like we would like travel back and forth to like we would split an Uber because we didn't have money for like transportation ourselves on the way home because we lived like on the west side, and then we would just like talk and connect and whatever, and then our dressing rooms were like we would just go into each other's. So I think it just happened really naturally. She's a good like listener, and she connects with people really instantly.
Molly's so natural, and I think it works because Rachel's character is so anxious in the movie, and her character is so comfortable in her setting. Like she's so in her element. And Molly as she is such a warm, touchy person. Yeah. The first time I met Molly, she just gave me a big hug while she was still on the phone, and we didn't even introduce each other. And then the first time she met the two of us, I was getting there. We were sitting up at like a bar stool table at a restaurant waiting for our table, and she went right up to us and grabbed both of our hair and was like, "We all have the same hair." So she's a very touchy person, very warm and very kind. So I feel like that helped too. And that she would feel comfortable doing that, and she didn't even know us, which in real life we were cool with, but I feel like Danielle is, Danielle struggles with.
Yeah. It's interesting that the catalyst for like all the drama in this movie is a relationship with a man, because I feel like this movie to me is like very much about women. And you had a lot of women behind the camera. Was that an intentional choice, or was that kind of just how it happened?
I like working with women. I like working with women. I like working with women if it makes sense. You know what I mean? Like I worked with my editor before. We were really close friends, Hannah Park. I think if the content is female, like it's going to help to have women around. Like our DP Maria would say things sometimes like, she related to Danielle, and that helped because the people who are closest to you physically on set are even if it's not their department, will be the ones offering things here and there. So I don't know. I don't want to say like I didn't think about it. I don't know. Most of my friends are female, and I think for my DP, I was like, I want a female DP. That felt really important to me. And then everyone else just sort of fell into their place. Like I was already working with Katie, Kieran, and Lizzie going into it. Kieran's a dude. He's gay, but we went into it sort of with a strong female group, and then it just sort of happened. Like there was never like we don't have enough women, or we need more or less. But I do think that it helps. It all helps, because then they can be like, you know what, I think this or I think that, and offer their opinion, and it just comes from a place of like them relating. And I think. Yeah, that's such a good point though that you say about like it's driven by the catalyst is a dude, but it's all these women, because we were talking about how like Danny's character is like he's just there, and it's enough to cause like a fucking like uproar, which is how it usually is in life. Yeah, like there's just like a fuckboy just sort of like being there, and you're like I'll do anything for you. I'll ruin my
life.
Yeah.
And he's like, I am
Here.
here.
That's literally it. Because I feel like even though for Danielle and Max, it's not about like love or like intimacy or romance. It's just about power.
Yeah.
And I think when a guy likes you, even if he's like, you're like, it means the world to you to have control over him. And so anyway, it's just such a good point because it's just that we were talking about last night. He's just sort of there, and it's enough to sort of cause this horrible thing.
Stuff. But it's so crazy because you have all these complex, unique female characters. You have also generations of women. Like literally, it was like all of these like older women who are like been in theater for years, who are like these amazing Broadway actors, and then there was like Polly, who was bringing her experience as a mother, and then there's like Diana, Molly, like it was like, so I think it did really become about the women. It's like mother-daughter relationship, and like honestly, the thing with Max, it almost becomes more like Kim and Danielle, and then Maya and Danielle, and so it's like, and even Maya and Danielle against Kim, and talking about how when you're talking about another woman and you're like, or when Polly.
Well, yeah, because it's all about internalized misogyny. Like,
yeah,
I think he's just there, and then the mom is like, she's a shiksa, da 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 da. And then
with her and Deborah Hoffner, I remember you when you were directing that scene, you're like, they trade lines where like, do you know when you're talking shit with someone and then like one of you says something horrible and the other one's like, well, she's not that bad. But I did hear, and then you like alternate between like being like, and of course, and I'm good, and no, and I would never say anything, but I heard she's a skank. Like it's like that back and forth.
All caused by a dude. Yeah.
All caused by a dude.
Yeah, sorry, that's not what you asked, but
no, but totally, and it unpacks this like weird. I mean, exactly what you said. Internalized misogyny. It's like even if we're like, we're all feminists, but also I hate her. Like,
of course.
Exactly. Yeah.
What were some of the inspirations for you, Emma, making this? Like, I know this has been compared to Uncut Gems a lot, but like when you were making it, what were you thinking about?
Sure. Yeah. What's funny is that we shot the movie in August of 2019, and then Uncut Gems came out that December. So I hadn't seen it or anything, or really knew about it. And then I was like, this is our brand. I was like, this is it. But we're not in the Diamond District. I thought a lot about the movie Krisha, Trey Edward Schultz's first film, because it's also based off a short, but mostly because it's one day, one location. It's a woman like basically having a nervous breakdown at a family event, but it's written and directed like a thriller, like a horror movie. So I kept coming back to that one because it was made for like also $2. So I was like, how did they do this part and that part and this part? I think The Graduate was always a reference because of like the themes, but also like the claustrophobia and just so much like dramatic irony in the way that the frames, and just the way the images are composed, like with one character like up here having a nervous breakdown and other characters talking about that character back here, like that happens so much in that movie. Just using the camera as like an ironic device. And then because I was also just looking at like realism films because I wanted it to feel claustrophobic. And so I was watching a lot of Cassavetes, and like Opening Night was a big one we kept coming back to. I don't know, in Black Swan, often references would kind of inspire other references. And I'd be like, oh, it reminds me of that movie. I should go watch it. But I think it was different each stage. For the writing, I was thinking about like Jewish rom-coms, like Keeping the Faith and Crossing the Lancey and Kissing Jessica Stein. And then I was thinking about family, like gathering films like Rachel Getting Married and August Osage County. And then as we were shooting, it became like more the visual thriller references. And then as we were editing, it was like going back to Krisha and stuff like that. So yeah, it was a hodgepodge, but I tried to focus after a while just on the thrillers because I didn't want it to be compared. I wanted to stand out from the Jewish rom-com camp, even though I love those movies so much. I was like, they nailed it at a time when wasn't crowded. And I was like, I want to stand out from that ring. So I focused on thrillers and stuff.
We talked about this a while back, but there are big Yentl vibes in this movie.
Yes, I should
tell me a bit about that.
Yeah, I think Barbra Streisand nails the Juglo, which is, I think, like used now in everything. Like, I don't want to say they're all like taking it from Yentl, but I think that they are. Like, I think A Serious Man has it and Transparent has it. Like, this just amber, gorgeous glow coming from candles and just like natural light. It's just always like a little amber and brown. And I think that that lighting was inspired so much for me. And then also, I just think it's like the best directorial debut ever. I think it's just the most well-crafted film for a first-time director. And it's such a strong female character. And looking back from a 2021 perspective, it's so much about gender and performance and like, you know, power. And Mandy Patinkin is so hot in it, and he's naked, and like, it's so much of a female gaze, you know what I mean? Like a very delicate female gaze. It doesn't feel exploitative, but it's like you don't get that when you watch movies from, when was that made? In the 70s, in the 80s? It was in the 80s. It was like 83 or something like that. Yeah. Just such a good movie that I don't hear enough of my contemporaries talking about. I feel like people used to be like Yentl, you know, as if it's like a joke, and it's such a good film. So yeah. But since talking to you, I talked to somebody else another young Jewish female journalist who was like, Danny DeFerrari kind of looks like Mandy Patinkin in Yentl.
He does.
I was like, you're the third Jewish journalist to tell me this.
But I rewatched Yentl in quarantine, and to your point, it's like, it's about a girl with a crush. Like, it's the horniest movie ever. It's like every frame of Mandy Patinkin is so like lovingly composed to make it look amazing.
Yes, it is, and it's so rare you get that. It is just a girl in a crush, but it's in a shtetl, and she's dressed up as a boy. It's like it's so beautiful. Yeah.
Rachel, when you were starting out in comedy, I know you kind of were in a more mainstream scene. Tell me about, you know, your experience with that and finding your kind of niche and your people.
Totally. I mean, I started stand-up when I was a freshman, and I just went to the first open mic that the guy I was dating took me to. And then I kept like doing it in that area. And it was very like Manhattan and club based. It was mostly men. They were mostly older. Like, it was very much like guys who were like, I got to get in the cellar. And I was just kind of like, I just felt out of place, but I didn't know that another scene existed. And I also felt like when I was telling jokes about my sex life, the guys at the mics weren't laughing at my jokes. They were like laughing because they were like, that girl's 18 and she had sex. Like, it didn't feel like anyone got me. And then I sort of started to be aware of the alt scene, but I didn't really even know how to get into it. And then I got booked on It's a Guy thing, which is our friend Catherine. It doesn't exist anymore. Well, I mean, no shows exist in the pandemic, but it was Kat Cohen, Mitra Joharian, Patty Harrison, and it was like a show they hosted at Union Hall, and it was like all the cool young comics. And I did that show, and I was like, oh my God, like everyone in the show was like, it's like women, queer people, people of color. And then the audience is people like that too. And it was like, it just felt like they like were laughing at the joke and they related to the point of view. Like, and it just felt so much better. And then I started performing in that scene more and more. I think I met Jabuki that night too. He was like there from LA, and he was like, I've seen your Twitter. And I was like, ah! And it just was like, it just felt like this. It just felt like such a more welcoming scene. And then I just started doing so much better there because people got what I was talking about.
We were talking before about having women behind the camera. And does that change how you kind of feel supported as an actor, or how you get into a role or like work or your process?
I think it's actually crazy. I think I've like literally only worked with female directors. I mean, I haven't done that many things, but if I'm thinking about it, I've actually pretty much only worked with female directors except for like one time for this sketch, and I'll tell you, it was a nightmare. So I have mostly worked with female. It's crazy. Yeah. And even Call Your Mother, all female directors is so cool. And I think it's just a director should make an actor feel I don't want to say like baby us, but you do have to feel safe, and like they have to have intuition and like be able to connect with you. And to me, I'm like, that's a woman, like that, they know, you know what I mean? And then in terms of a DP, like Maria had actually shot some of my sketches before, and I loved working with her. She's so like calm on it, and like there's you never feel, again, like female gaze or whatever, it's like the lens never feels like it's creepy, like in a way, or like it's exploitative is a, thank you. It's like it never felt, and I almost felt that through Maria, even though I couldn't really even, sometimes I was like, I don't know what the lens is, but it's like she's, do you know what I mean? Having her behind it, it just feels different.
Yeah, because the movie kicks off with a sex scene. What were kind of some of the challenges of filming that, if any? And like, you know, did it help to have a woman behind the lens on that day?
Well, that was actually the last day when we shot that sex scene. And the second last day we shot Danielle taking the nudes and also the almost blowjob scene. And
I had a UTI for
Rachel
that.
had a UTI.
I had a raging UTI for the almost blowjob scene.
So all three of those scenes were shot back to back right at the end of the movie, which was a mistake, because everyone's sort of like over it and is like, all right, it's great, let's do it. And that's actually the scenes where you need to be treating the actors with the most care, and I mean, you should always be treating actors with care, but with really like you understanding their sensitivities and their vulnerabilities. And I think by the end, everyone was like, all right, you know, like, let's just get this done. And the last day shooting the sex scene was the only day we weren't in the house. So we had the whole day. And that, as a director, gave me relief because we'd been shooting like 4 scenes a day. And I was like, oh, we can take our time. And that was not the perspective that I should have had. That was really hard. That was the hardest scene to shoot. But I think the mistake I made was I was like, I'm a woman. Like I can direct. I'm like not creepy. Like I know how to do this. You know what I mean? Like we all watched Me Too happen. Like I'm fine. So I did all the like rules on paper. You know, it was like everyone else had to get out of the room. It was just me, Maria, the AC, who we switched from our other male AC to another female one, and then our producer Kieran did the sound. He was the one guy. So I was like, okay, we did the one thing of the like limited group, and we turned the monitors off. And so I was like, all right, we did it. And by that point, I was so fried, and that was a really hard scene to shoot. I wasn't always aware. I wasn't like. But
I would say that I do think. I mean, I think it's just speaking to like it's like. It just was challenging, I think, for both of us because that's the first sex scene I've ever done. But I think we were figuring it out together, and also we're best friends. So that helped a lot too. I will say though, I do think it does help, like just in terms of like Maria as a DP, like shooting the nudes in the bathroom scene. It's like, it was just the 3 of us in the bathroom. You've seen my boobs 100 times. Like that felt, I will say yes, like I would rather have a female DP and female director for stuff like that. But I think it just goes to show that it's like, it's just a really challenging thing. And I think it's like, but yeah, I think it helps so much, and being communicative too helps a lot.
And I will say, even on the last day when I was like not as in tune, our costume designer, Michelle, who was, I feel like just your therapist throughout the whole movie. When
she got me the UTI medicine.
She was like on it with Rachel. I think costume designers are often the people in hair and makeup who become closest to the actors, because they're just like, do you feel comfortable in this makeup, or do you feel comfortable in these clothes? And I remember on the last day when I was like, our brains are falling apart, and Michelle was like, so what did you want Rachel to wear? And I was like, I don't know. Like, and the 3 of us were having conversations, and Michelle was trying to be the one that was like, so in that moment, it was really important that she was a woman, because if it was a male costume designer, they'd be like, I don't give a shit, get her naked. No, I'm kidding. But
there are good guys out there. I just want to say we are not. We do. I love my dad, and I love my dad and my brother, and There's definitely a couple other good ones.
Yeah.
No,
definitely.
we're not trying to be hating to men, but no, I agree. I think it was like it's the team. I think that's so true. The team of women. There was a support system there where it was like people thought of things like Michelle thought of like I have all these different coverings. I have robes for in between the scenes.
Yeah, she
like
had gone robes. I was like, man, okay, yeah. Stuff like that. Yeah, no, it's important so that when one falls, everyone else is there to support. Yeah.
This is totally unrelated, but I kept wondering as I was watching the movie, there's so much food in all the scenes and so much lox. Like, did the whole house smell like lox?
I did on the short film, and so we had to learn that the hard way. So our incredible production designer, Cheyenne Ford, and the art team had a system in place so that, and lox is expensive too. So not only could we not have it sitting out stinking up the house, but we needed to keep some of it good because at a certain point people did need to eat it. And it would also just look bad. It would need to look fresh. You can tell.
Yeah.
So after every take, when we were like, okay, cut, all the like art PAs would come out and like take them and like put it back in the fridge. And then it'd be like, okay. So then I would give the actors their notes. And as soon as we were ready to go in for a new take, they would bring the lox back out. So it was just them always going in and out of the fridge with the lox. And also having 5,000 little bagel slices. Like there's a point in the movie where Rachel like just grabs like half a bagel that's left, spits it out and like runs off. And I remember Cheyenne had like 30 plates of like little just half bagel things ready to go with cream cheese. So it was a very, very amazing art team that had everything ready to go. And then we had to figure out a way for you to not eat the lox because at a certain point, all the lox was bad. And so the lox on Rachel's bagel is bad, but she's just eating the cream cheese part. And but
I could see I was making eye contact with it when I would take a bite. I would be like, go to the side because you didn't want to
eat the bad lox.
Yeah.
Are you off lox now? Has this put you off lox forever?
Oh my God, we got so many bagels for like the release as
I
gifts.
know.
Everyone thought they were being original, but everyone was thinking the same thing by gifting all of us huge like bagel plates. I mean, some of our sponsors were bagel places, so I shouldn't say that. Some of our film sponsors gave us free bagels, and it was like, they're all delicious. But then on top of those, which we knew we were getting, lots of people were like, congratulations, and sent us more bagels and cream cheese and lox platters. So now I feel like after we shot the movie, we were definitely off lox. Then we got you never really ate lox, but I did. And then we got all these things and I started eating them, but then there's more and more. And I'm like, no, I can't. So that's been our journey with lox and cream cheese.
And bagels.
You don't really eat bagels much, do you?
I don't. Well, I was trying to be, I can't say that I was trying to eat healthy for the premiere. We were having sweet green every day.
And then
is that bad to say?
No.
Okay.
You guys talked about how you lean on each other. What do you think you each bring to your creative partnership?
I can't separate our creativity from, actually I can.
Should we say, I say what I love about you and you say, because I'm like, I don't want to be like, I'm great. Like Emma is so grounded, so calm. She pays attention to detail, like, and she will, if something in the script is not working, if something is not working creatively, she will figure it out no matter what. And she has just a really good creative intuition and she knows what she wants.
Wow. Okay.
And she's a great listener and she talked me through the worst traumas of my life, but that's separate. Okay. You go.
I think Rachel is a lot more energized than me. And so I think I can't separate for me like your creative benefits from your friendship benefits.
I know, it's all a blur.
Because I feel like she's the ultimate pep talker. So I think as a creative collaboration, like there's just so many times when you're like feeling down about the movie and the process and raising money and whatever. And every single time I was like, we're not going to raise the money. Like it's not going to happen. Every single time Rachel would be like, we are. And here's what we're going to do. She's just the most positive person. And she's funny. Like she's just hilarious. And I think that I'm not as good at writing jokes. And I think that Rachel thinks of jokes like she is a machine. She just thinks of jokes constantly. And I think like, I don't know. I just like, you get to like you're just constantly coming up with new ideas, and you're really inventive, and you're also a really good listener. And I feel like you take everything I give you. And yeah. And then as friends, we like to say that like she pulls me out of my depression, and I calm her down. I calm her anxiety.
I'm very anxious.
She's anxious, I'm depressed.
I'm A, she's D.
We balance each other out. Yeah.
What draws you to her as a performer?
Me as to her as a performer. Oh, she's to her. This one here. She's magnetic. She's so. The camera loves her face, and she's so natural. I think like when you auditioned first for the short, I just felt like you were someone I knew. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think that's what people love about her comedy so much. Like, she's just so natural. She's just such a normal girl. I think so much of the time you're like, everyone else who auditioned was like, it was a performance, you know, and there was like a girl who teared up, and I was like, she's talented. But then I was like, I know Rachel, like I've met her before, you know? And I think that it's just so nice to have someone who feels like a real person. I don't know. And you internalize everything really well. She takes direction so well. Like anytime I would ask you to do it one way or another, you never didn't know what I was talking about. So often you like give an actor direction, and then they do something and you're like, that's not what I meant. You know, but that's
because Emma knows really well how to say it. She does.
But sometimes it doesn't matter, because sometimes people have their own ideas, you know. You listen, and you I don't know, you go for it. I think there were sometimes on Shiva where she like, you would just fully go there, and I'd be like, so you're sad, and then she would have a fucking breakdown, like for the scene where you're like, stop. Like she got so into it that she started crying, and I remember like being like, well, I didn't ask her to do that, but that was great. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's actually really hard for actors to take direction. I think it's like that's half of what being a good actor is listening to different ways to try it, and you can pivot so quickly. You know, you'll be doing it in a way where you're like really like flirting, and then I'll be like, no, you hate them, and then all of a sudden like, and it's I think it's good to have actors who can like learn to just totally shake it up and not come in with an idea of what it has to be, you know. So
what's next for both of you?
Well,
I was gonna say a trip to the beach, but we literally did that 2 days ago.
A trip to the beach.
We did that 2 days ago.
We've been working on another script for the last like 4 years that we're finally getting the chance to like really sink our teeth into now that this is all over. And that's much more of a campy, like fun comedy that's not Jewish and anxiety inducing. So that it's much more in Rachel's brand of comedy. So we've been working on that, and we're excited.
And it's super horny is what she means when she goes, it's Rachel's brand of comedy. It's horny.
It's horny. So yeah, and it's fun. So we're having fun writing that, and hopefully we'll get to make that soon.
I like this woman on woman muse relationship. It's rare.
It's so fun. It's so
fun. Special.
Yeah, it is. I highly recommend.
I recommend it too.
What a nice note.
Sorry.
What a nice note to end on.
Oh, yeah.
It's very cute. As we said in my second year Zoom passive reciter, next year in person, hopefully.
Year in person, yes. Please. That would be fun.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it.